Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Farhan, also known as Gunner since 96, and you are watching a very special video once again. The next few will probably be the similar, talking about the European Super League. And we have had some developments in the last few hours. We've had a lot of development in the last 24 hours as well. A lot of comments coming out from Florentino Perez, Real Madrid's president, and also now the Super League's president. But I think it's worth talking about the reports coming from the Times that one of the big six possibly considering whether to withdraw from the Super League or not. Speculations are that it very well might be Manchester City, who have nothing to gain from being in this tournament. They've got all the money in the world. They've got all the influence, status, power, pedigree, talent. Being in this Super League doesn't benefit them, nor do they lose anything out of it if they don't decide to join it. But there's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of turmoil. The fan base has very much been divided in this issue. And so I thought I'd make a video just talking about things that have been happening and to give my thoughts on it as well. Also, this morning, Boris Johnson came out and said that no action is off the table to stop the planned European Super League. I think every political party in this country has condemned it and has expressed their dissatisfaction of the Super League being created, saying that the government is going to be exploring all options, including new laws. So it seems as if what first initially seemed like something which was set in stone, something which was going to be starting in summer, non-reversible, is now looking like a little bit, a bit more open, and something where barriers are going to be put in front of these clubs, and you know, whether they, depending on how they choose to pass those barriers or whether they give in and pull out, who knows? This is something which is going to be unraveling itself in the upcoming days. The Premier League are going to be having their meeting today with the 14 teams who are ultimately going to be deciding whether to boot these clubs out of the Premier League, suspend them for this season, point deduction, whatever the case may be. There will be some sanctions, you'd think, being put on these clubs, including Arsenal Football Club, and UEFA will also be discussing possible sanctions, including barring these clubs and kicking them out of this year's campaigns as well. But obviously all of that is hearsay at the minute. What I want to talk about is Florentino Perez and the interview that he did last night. And I'm going to be pulling out the quotations via the main man himself, Fabrizio Romano. So, you know, the majority of the things that he says, if not all of it, can be taken for gospel. And Perez was on El Chiringuito, which is a television program in Spain, and there is a lot of quotes that were being pulled out. Most of it justifying why the Super League is needed. In his own words, it's supposedly to save football. Yeah, I don't really know what he means when he's referring to saving football. Saving football from what exactly? From extinction? Because I'm pretty sure if you get 11 men, 22 men on a pitch and a ball, football can still be played, you know? I wouldn't call it extinction. If he's referring to the industry, the business side of it all, maybe potentially he could make an argument about that, but I don't think anyone is concerned right now at this stage anyway about the development of the business and the commercial side of things. I think this is something which has been taking away, slowly eradicating the nature of what football was created for, which was to entertain the masses. Now, I understand the arguments of, the new media era, fan bases being globalized, and only being able to sit on their sofa or go down to the pub with a few friends to watch the game. It's only people in this country who are privileged enough to go and see their teams play in the stadiums. But I think this new media age has drastically, threatened and to somewhat removed is the best word to use, the culture and the heritage of a lot of these football teams. Ever since we've seen investors like Stan Kroenke, like the Glazers, John Hicks come into the picture, the culture and heritage of football of these clubs have mattered less, and it's been more about how much money we can pump in to the club so that we can pump it back out into our own pockets. And we can see it very easily with the amount of money that United have been spending, Liverpool, Arsenal for the last 4 or 5 seasons. The need to qualify for Europe season in, season out. Now, you can tell me if I'm wrong, correct me, but 10 years ago, I don't think European qualifications was as big of a deal as winning the FA Cup or winning the Premier League was. Domestically, it seems as if that has become a secondary today in the past few seasons, especially since these new owners have come in. The focus has shifted from, right, we need to try and win the FA Cup this season, or we need to try and get as close to winning the Premier League as possible, to now, let's qualify for Europe and let's try and bank in that money and let's try and push as far as we can in Europe. It seems as if when teams are knocked out of the FA Cup, it's not the end of the world, because guess what? We can still qualify for Europe. That type of mindset and mentality has been developed throughout the last, I think, 5 or 6 years. And it's not a coincidence, I don't think, that in that time we've seen the influence of owners like Kroenke grow stronger and stronger in our clubs. So let's hear what Florentino Perez has to say about this situation and what justifications he's made. So one of the quotes is, "Here at Real Madrid, we've lost a lot of money. We are all going through a very bad situation. When there is no profit, the only way is to play more competitive games during the week. The Super League will save the clubs financially." Again, here it is. I think the motive is clear. The motive is money, and I think this is a desperate plea or a desperate attempt to try and maintain and preserve the elites in football. These guys don't want a change in power. They don't want things to be equal. They don't want to be playing on an equal level playing field. Because once that happens, then you're risking other teams winning championships rather than your traditional Real Madrid, Barcelona, or your traditional Man City. Not even Man City in the last only 10 years. Before it was United, Arsenal, not even Chelsea. So the power dynamics have been shifted drastically in the Premier League, but when you look at other places like Spain, it's maintained that level. But other teams are coming up. You got Atletico Madrid in the last few years as well. Potentially looking at Valencia, Sevilla, maybe Villarreal to some extent. The margins are being closed. They're becoming the other clubs are becoming more of a threat to these European superpowers. And so what Perez is saying here, that as well as the financial situation that we're going through because of COVID, this is going to dent our status and our hierarchical status in the long run if we don't do anything about it now. So if you read between the lines, it's clear what he's saying. The fella is saying, we need this to happen in order to make sure that we are safe. Forget about everyone else. I'm not bothered about what happens to West Ham, Leicester, what happens to Real Sociedad, what happens to Napoli. I'm more concerned about what happens to preserving elitism in football. And if no one can see that, if it's that difficult to read between the lines, you need to get yourselves down to Specsavers and get yourself a pair of glasses. It's clear as day. And even after the fact that you have established reading between the lines and identifying what he's trying to say, should you then go that extra step further and say, you know what, I'm okay with it, then I think you've lost sight of what football has done to our communities and what it means in our communities, because football isn't for commercial gain. Football isn't supposed to be for entertaining casual fans, creating content for the sake of creating content. Football was created for people, for communities to grow, for areas to develop. If you look at, for example, being an Arsenal fan, my area in Islington, what it used to be to what it is now, big difference. I grew up there at a time where, you know, crime was quite rife, gang culture was common. I was raised in a council estate flat, so I saw it first-handed. And a few years down the line, Dennis Bergkamp, Robin van Persie came along and built an AstroTurf just down the road from me. That changed the area, the dynamics of the area, what the young kids were doing drastically. It finally gave them something to do. And you know, not to mention the other activities that Arsenal were doing in and around the area. In my secondary school, for example, approaching youngsters, encouraging them to join the Arsenal Double Club, which was to enhance their IT skills, and other things like, you know, every Thursdays, bringing coaches into the local parks to teach kids how to play. These are the things that matter to us. It's not trying to stress the level of competitiveness or the lack of that Arsenal are producing. It's what they've done for areas. And I can't speak for the other clubs, but I'm sure it's the same. It's managed to bring a group of people together and to hold firm their values and what they believe in. Holding firm to togetherness, you know, looking out for each other. Because if it isn't football, then what is it that binds communities together? I don't know. But we're at threat right now of that being eradicated, of that being destroyed by one man and his elite ideas, and not just one man, but several. All they want is to profit off of this idea, of this theory and this thing that they've created in their minds, just calculating dollar bills going along the way. Another quote that I'm going to pull out from Perez's interview is this one here, where he says, the attractive thing in football is playing between big clubs. The value for television increases and more income is generated. It's not just the rich who want the Super League. We're doing it to save football because it's at a critical moment. Now, I don't quite understand what he means by this, because never have I in my wildest dreams thought that football would ever be in a critical moment. So as long as the fans are there, as long as supporters back their clubs, and people like myself are as passionate as they are about the sport, football will never be dead. There will never come a time where football is at a crossrails. But when it comes to money, maybe, yes. So he mentions that the attractive thing is in football is playing between big clubs. I totally disagree with that. I think some of the brightest and most memorable moments in football are of underdogs beating the big clubs. I'm talking about Leicester winning the Premier League. I'm talking about Liverpool coming back 3-0 down to win the Champions League. I'm talking about the time when Arsenal went ahead to come back against Hull. Now, I get, you know, Arsenal and Liverpool aren't underdogs, but in the situation where they were in, they were certainly underdogs. And so, you know, when we think about the amount of times that Real Madrid won a Champions League, I for one can't remember a single time, a single cup final where they won. You know, the latest one probably being beating Liverpool in the cup finals. But they don't offer for me special moments. This isn't what galvanizes fan bases faces together and to switch on the TV. When you're watching a team like Barcelona versus Real Madrid, season in, season out, there are a few special occasions where players like Messi and Ronaldo make it that occasion, make it what it is. But without them, is it something really worthwhile? If you've got something better to do, if you've got a family dinner to go to and you're choosing between watching the El Clasico, between a family dinner, which one are you realistically going to be picking? Like, if when it really comes down to it, and you're talking about seeing that fixture 4 or 5 times a year. So I totally disagree that the attractive thing in football is playing between big clubs. It's never been further from the truth. But the next bit, going on to talk about the television, the value for television increases, more income is generated. Look, I think personally that Perez is talking for the millions of fans around the world. And I get that, and I appreciate that. But in order to progress and develop football fans globally, in order to get them to the stage where they understand why it is that a big club and a small club playing together is create special moments, you can't develop something like the Super League. Because I think this idea that football fans around the world who aren't as connected with clubs like we are, being based in the UK or the home countries, wherever they are, I think to say they are not connected and therefore, as we are, and therefore we need something like the Super League is almost stopping at the midway point to say, right, we've got this audience, let's really give them what they want, rather than helping them to further be enriched in football, culture, heritage, When is it going to be time where we put the spotlight on that? On what matters the most, which is why football fans are football fans. When do we start to put emphasis on that rather than, isn't it great to watch Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich? Isn't it great to see, star players on the football pitch playing together and seeing who can get the best out of the other? Because that's not what excites me. I don't get excited watching someone like Lewandowski or Haaland. And I'll be honest with you, I think I'm more excited watching upcoming players like Bukayo Saka and Phil Foden than watching those two. And that's the beauty about football. Because you watch these things and you watch players develop and you watch them grow and come from nothing into something. But according to this man, we need big clubs playing with each other in order to preserve the football pyramid. And the final quote that I'm going to pull out is one that he says, it will become like a pyramid because we big clubs will have more money and will be able to invest it by buying players. If the big clubs lose their money, as is happening, the whole football system crashes, as with the Champions League. Again, I am not an economist. I am not clued up on finances as much as some others might do. But if you don't have money to buy players, you don't. You look down your academy and you bring those who aren't fortunate enough in normal circumstances to play the game. You bring them into the spotlight and you develop them. It's not like, am I oversimplifying things, or am I the only one that's seeing things straight? So because big clubs don't have money, that's it. Football is going to crash. He says it here. If the big clubs lose their money, as is happening, the whole football system crashes, as with the Champions League. I mean, talk about scaremongering. If big clubs don't have money, then big clubs don't spend. Big clubs preserve what they have. I don't know what this obsession is with spending at least 100, 200 million pounds every single transfer window. There was once upon a time where we didn't have windows like that, where, the biggest transfer fee was your 30 mils or your 40 mils, So this guy is full of rubbish. if you're asking me. He's trying to paper over the cracks. He's trying to, dress this up the way that he wants people to see it and accept it for what it is. But most of us aren't idiots. Most of us aren't blind. Most of us are lifelong football fans, and we know how this system works. And so if Mr. Perez thinks that we're going to sit back and allow this to unfold, he's got another thing coming. Like I said, the Premier League are going to be holding their meeting today, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, what sanctions are put in place. It'll be interesting to see what Boris Johnson and the government do, because something has to be done now. We've never wanted the government to intervene in football, but it's got to a point now where we're banking on them to do that. And also, the Fans Forum will be having a live meeting discussion with the club's higher-ups. So that will be held on Thursday evening with the likes of Vinay and Edu, who will need to have good justifications for why the club has done this, and they will try and dress it up the way that they want. But it's up to fans now. It really is. It's down to you guys. Do you want to sit back and watch this unfold and let it become a reality? Because there is still time that we can do something about it. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and hit that bell notification to be notified every time I release a video. I'll be back again. I don't know when. I don't know whether it's tomorrow, the day after, but I will be back again to talk about the Super League. It doesn't seem appropriate to talk about anything else other than this is all cleared up. But until then, stay home, stay safe, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.